Welcome to our second annual Scripps Research Graduate Program Open House. My name is Dawn Eastmond, and I will facilitate the first part of today's open house, the graduate program overview. And then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Paulo Garcia, who's going to facilitate a conversation with several admissions committee members. And then I'm going to turn it over to Rosia Alba-Zeckler, who's going to facilitate a conversation with graduate students who were in your shoes just a year or two ago. And then we'll finish up with a Q&A with Paulo and Shannon facilitating the questions in the Q&A section. So just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. All participants have been muted and your videos have been disabled. Whenever you think of a question, use the Q&A button located on the bottom of your screen to submit it. Paul and Shannon are monitoring them. You'll have an opportunity to vote on questions, and then we will get to as many as we can at the end of today's session. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in. So today I'm going to take you through a very brief overview of Scripps Research, what makes us special, and then I'm going to talk about several of our graduate programs, the Ph.D. program, the Skaggs-Oxford program, and our joint MD Ph.D. programs. Then we'll talk a little bit about the admissions process. I'll go through the 2021 admissions statistics and our goals for this year, and then talk a little bit about funding. So a little bit about Scripps. So we are one of the largest biomedical research facilities in the country. We do basic clinical and translational research. We study over 40 different diseases, including diseases such as HIV, Alzheimer's, cancer, diabetes. We have a lot of really great stuff going on right now with COVID. We have two campuses, one in La Jolla, which is in Southern California, a little north of San Diego, and one in Jupiter, Florida, which is in South Florida in the Palm Beach County. We have about 3,000 employees, 150 faculty, 400 postdocs, and over 300 graduate students. So it's a really incredible environment to do research. We are ranked #1 by the Nature Index in the world for the most influential research, which means that we're not only doing great things, but we're influencing the types of research that's happening at other places, as evidenced by our citations in publications. In addition to Scripps Research, we have a number of other entities which make us a really fantastic place to do research. We have a translational institute that does clinical research as well as populations research. We have Caliber, which is the entity that takes our really fascinating basic research discoveries and turns them into drugs. And then we have core facilities, which are PhD run departments that focus on specific technologies. So a little bit now about our graduate program. So our graduate program is young when compared to other universities. It started in 1989. And the way accreditation works when you're a new institution is that you actually have to graduate a student before you can become accredited. So 4 students joined our program in 1989, took a huge leap in joining a program that was unaccredited. And 4 years later, we had our first graduating student. We had a really big ceremony for one student. And we've got pictures of it on our walls here if you ever come visit us on our California campus. And after we graduated our first student, we were then accredited by WASC, which is the Western Regional Accrediting Body. And we have been accredited now for the last 32 years. And we were recently re-accredited in 2020 for 10 years, which is the maximum any school can be accredited for. So we are nationally ranked, even though we are a young program. We are nationally ranked and compete with top students all over the country for we compete with top graduate programs all over the country for graduate students. So students that are applying to Scripps get into schools like Stanford and MIT and Harvard. And we're able to compete with them even though we are a young program. So here are our rankings. We are ranked 6th in chemistry, 2nd in biochemistry, 5th in organic chemistry, and 10th in biology. So you're coming to a really, really outstanding program in our very short history. So if you come to Scripps, what exactly will you learn? We've outlined here for you our program learning outcomes. You will conduct original research, allowing you to gain scientific knowledge. You'll be able to test hypotheses, investigate these hypotheses, and master a really incredible set of technologies and tools. You'll learn critical thinking. You'll learn how to think about issues, how to put them into context, how to structure an argument to support your thinking, and also to think about assumptions made on those conclusions that you're drawing. We also will help you with your communication skills. This is both verbal as well as written. You will learn how to describe your research, not only to a group of scientists, but also to a layperson. It's really important nowadays that you be able to present your research to whether it's donors or even just to the public, especially now going through everything with COVID. It's critically important that everyone understands what you're doing and how it's going to impact their health. You'll also learn how to work in teams and how to write manuscripts and to get your science published. You will learn how to be intellectually curious. What does this mean? Basically, once you finish your graduate program, you really have to learn how to be a lifelong learner. You're not going to learn everything in the program, but you will learn how to think. So once you learn how to think, how do you then take that and continue to learn how to continue to be self-motivated so that as new things come up in your field, you'll be able to address them. And lastly, career and professional development. It's critically important that whatever it is that you decide to do in the future, you have the skills and you will know how to take them, learn some transferable skills such as negotiations, how to deal with conflict, how to engage in teams, and then be able to do whatever it is that you want to do in the future. So, what are the program requirements? It's generally a 5-year program that is fully funded. We'll talk more about the funding later. In your first 2 years, you'll be doing coursework. You're required to do 18 course credits, which turns out to be about 6 courses. And the way we do our courses is by giving you an option of taking your courses for a letter grade or for pass-fail. You're required to take a minimum of 4 courses for a letter grade, and then you can choose to take the other 2 as pass-fail. And I'll talk a little bit about why in a minute. And then in addition to that, in your first year, you're doing rotations, which are 10 to 12-week experiences in different labs to figure out exactly where you want to do your thesis work. Most students complete the 3 rotations, but you're only required to do 1. So in your first year, while you're doing coursework, you're also going to be rotating in different labs. So a little bit about the coursework. So we have our courses placed into tracks. We have 6 different tracks, everything from biology, immunology, structural biology, chemistry, and neuroscience. And all of these classes are placed in a track based on the discipline. You can choose to take all the classes in a particular track for a very focused type of curriculum, or you can choose to do a more interdisciplinary approach to your courses. We encourage students to do this because research, as I'm sure you all know, is very interdisciplinary, but it's really up to you. You can choose to take courses in one track or an interdisciplinary track and mix up the courses. So here is an example of immunology curriculum where they're not only taking immunology courses, but different types of courses such as cell biology and molecular biology. So again, here are your 6 courses, which is typical for students. They're choosing to take 4 as their core, meaning that they're taking this for credit. And then they're taking a virology class and a molecular medicine class, which is outside of the immunology track. And they're taking them as an elective, meaning as pass-fail, because it'll be a little bit complicated, a little bit difficult to actually compete with other students for the A's and B's in this class. So they're choosing to take these classes as an elective. Here are some other options that you can take as electives. Again, it's all really based and dependent upon your research project. So moving on now, we talked a little bit about your first year, moving on to your second and third year. After you have completed your rotations and decided what class you wanted to do, what lab you want to do your thesis work in, you join that lab in your second year and start to work on your thesis project. In your second year, you're usually finishing up your coursework as well. And at the end, you'll take what's called your candidacy examination. This is a 2-part exam that's based on your thesis project. The 2 parts of the exam is a written part that is basically your thesis project written in a grant format, and then defended orally to your committee. So a committee is an advisory committee that you put together with your advisor of 3 to 4 faculty members with relevant research experience to what you're going to be working on. And they meet annually with you to evaluate your work, evaluate your progress, provide guidance, and ensure that you're meeting the program learning outcomes. Your first meeting with them will be what we call a pre-candidacy meeting, where you get to know each other, talk a little bit about the project, get them familiar with what you're going to do. And then the following meeting, which will be about 6 months later, towards the end of your second year, beginning of your third year, you are doing your candidacy examination or qualifying exam. Then another program requirement that you have at the end of your 4th year is called an original research proposal. It's very similar to the candidacy examination in that it is a 2-part exam, but it's called original research because the proposal that you make is based on research outside of your thesis project. So it's original, it's completely different than what you have been working on for the last 3 or 4 years, and really gives you a measuring stick for how well you've been able to sort of think through concepts, work on a problem, be able to figure out how to solve a problem, and then write about it. And then at the end of your time in the program, you will write up your dissertation, hopefully have several different publications, and then defend your thesis orally to the entire campus. So now let's talk a little bit about the Skaggs-Oxford program. So this is a 6-year program. It's an incredibly competitive program, and it's because you will get 2 degrees at the end of the program. You'll spend approximately 3 years at Oxford in Great Britain and 3 years at Scripps, either the California or Florida campus. And it really gives you an opportunity to try different training environments. You have an integrated project where you've identified an advisor at Oxford and an advisor at Scripps, and together you start working on that project, defining what that project is, where you either do the biology or the chemistry on the Scripps campus, and then focus on the biochemistry of that project at Oxford. Now for this program, you could either start at Scripps or at Oxford. It doesn't matter. Whichever campus you start on, you basically will follow the program requirements of the campus that you're on. So for example, if you start at Oxford for years 1 and 3, this will basically be your program. They don't have classes at Oxford, so you're not required to do classes. You will do rotations, you'll begin your project. They have professional development workshops and different activities they expect you to participate in, and then you'll do your candidacy examination. And then for years 4 through 6, you'll move to Scripps Research, where you'll continue in that project. You'll do your ORP, which, as I mentioned in the slide previously, is usually year 4, and then you will defend. Now, if you start at Scripps, we have classes, as I just went through, so you will do your classes at Scripps, you'll do your rotations at Scripps, you'll begin your project and do your candidacy exam. And then sometime towards the end of your 3rd year, you'll move to Oxford, where you'll continue the project and do professional development that's required for students at Oxford, and then you will defend there. There also will be a number of different opportunities for you to be going back and forth between the 2 campuses throughout the years that you're on the other campus. For example, I have a couple of students now who are 2nd years that started at Scripps. We'll be going over to Oxford to start to get things together with their advisor over there and get a chance to meet their classmates, etc. Same thing is true if you start at Oxford. You'll be participating in things like our annual retreat, etc. in California. So now a little bit about our MD PhD program. So this is an 8-year program, and the format is 2-4-2. What's meant by that is you will apply to medical school. In California, it's UCSD. In Florida, it's FAU. You will do 2 years of medical school, and then at the end of your, towards the end of your 2nd year, you will apply to Scripps to get into the graduate program. You'll then do 4 years of the graduate program, and then go back to medical school for the final 2 years for your clinics, etc. The coursework is a little bit condensed because of the time that you're in the graduate program is less. So instead of having to do the full 18 credits as a PhD student, you're only required to do 12 course credits or 4 courses. And most of the students do their rotations during their 1st and 2nd year of medical school, so that by the time you start in the graduate program, you will have already identified your laboratory. All of the other requirements are the same. Let's talk a little bit about student outcomes. So right now we have about 320 students on the 2 campuses of Scripps. We have about 750 alumni. The great thing is that we have a very high graduation rate and attrition rate, and very low attrition rate. We have 85% of our students graduate in 6 years, and they usually graduate with 3 to 5 publications. 57% of our students go on to do postdoctoral work, where about 35% go on to do industry. A little bit more about the student success. So time to degree is 5.3 years. And most of our students go on to do sort of the traditional things. Either they go directly into industry. We have about 22% of our faculty now, of our alums now, are faculty all over the world. 16% are still in postdoctoral positions. And then others do really cool things like finance, entrepreneurship, consulting. Really big field right now for our alums as intellectual property. Many of them are really interested in technology development, etc. So a little bit about the admissions process. Applications are due December 1st of every year. It's basically the same kind of things that you would need for any kind of graduate program, including transcripts, 3 letters of recommendation from faculty who you've done research with or who know your potential as a graduate student. We require 2 statements. One is a statement of purpose or a personal statement, and the other one is a research statement, all about the types of research that you've done. The COVID statement, this is not required, but we do allow you to provide us with a statement about, how COVID has impacted you if you haven't been able to do the research that you had hoped to do because of, the tragedy we've been going through over the last 2 years. The GREs are no longer required. You can submit them if you wish, but they're not required. And if you're applying to the Skaggs-Oxford program, there's an additional essay that you must submit. All of this information is on our website. A little bit about the 2021 admission statistics. We had 971 applications last year. In California, we interviewed 131 applicants. In Florida, they interviewed 75. In California, we admitted 125 of these students, which is only 13%. In Florida, we admitted 36, which is 4%. And then the size of our incoming class, 53 in California and 20 in Florida. And here at the bottom, I have a little bit more demographics of the applicants and the first year class. So we are planning on having about the same size classes we've had in previous years. For our doctoral program in California, we're looking for 50 to 55 students, while in Florida, we're looking for between 15 and 20. For our Skaggs-Oxford program, we're going to take 2 to 3 students total across the 2 campuses. For our MD, Ph.D. program in California, we're going to take 2 students, and the same is true for our Florida MD, Ph.D. program. So just a quick comment about costs and support. So our program, even though it is an incredibly great program that allows you to have a very individualized experience, the cost is very low. The tuition per year is $5,000. But all students who are admitted to our program receive a scholarship. So their tuition is paid for them, and they receive a stipend of either $35,000 if you're on the Florida campus or $37,000 if you're on the California campus. This scholarship also provides you with benefits, medical, dental, vision, as well as mental health. All of that is covered as part of your scholarship. And this is true for students regardless of their citizenship. So if you're a US citizen or you are born and raised outside of the US, if you're accepted to the program, you receive the same scholarship. And one of the questions that we received and I wanted to cover today is, how are students funded? Generally, students are funded in their first year by the Office of Graduate Studies, and then beyond that, starting in your second year, the PI or your advisor covers you, and they cover you for the rest of the time that you're in the program. If you are able to secure external funding, for example, if you are able to get an F-31 or an NSF GRFP, or if you have funding from your home country, then you will be eligible for a $5,000 supplement. So I'll leave you with our contact information. All of the information that I described today, you can find on our website, education.scripps.edu, and here is our email address, admissions@scripps.edu.